Take advantage. You don't have to panic. We gon' save the planet. There will be no damage. Come on, take advantage.
Test.
You don't have to panic. We are merely here to save the planet. We won't be complacent if it's damage. This is vital information, take advantage.
I'm Terrell Jackson, the pastor of the Macedonia Baptist Church of Bel Air Cove, just outside of Ville Platte, Louisiana. We may be just a little difficult to find, but when you get here, you'll realize you're right at home. The mission of our church is the same mission Jesus gave over 2,000 years ago, and that's to reach the lost for his kingdom. We hope you're encouraged by today's gospel presentation because it's tailor-made for you. If you're a regular with us, you already know about our mobile app and its many resources. If you're new to us, go to our website and there you can learn more about us. You can also go to the link that says, I'm new, tell us more about you. Also, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our lives are super busy. And just in case you miss us on Sundays in our live stream, on Wednesdays in our Bible exploration, you can go to our website or to our mobile app, and there you can find all of our previous sermons or Bible studies. At Macedonia, we have a motto where we say we love you to life. So come to Macedonia and experience the life-transforming power of the Word of God, and you'll see why we love you to life.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us once again at the Macedonia Baptist Church in beautiful Bel Air Cove, just outside of Ville Platte. My apologies. I'm trying to get this sound right. We're coming to you live from the Macedonia Baptist Church, just outside of Ville Platte, Louisiana. Well, I am truly excited on tonight to have with me in this building some wonderful young folk who are going to help us to have an engaging conversation about mental health awareness. We're in the middle of Mental Health Awareness Month. And as you know, we're in the middle of an entire year where we're talking about wellness in general. And so tonight and for the rest of this month, over the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to be having a conscious conversation about what it means to be aware of what's going on in our community, especially in the area of mental health. It's one of those things that we don't talk about a whole lot. And so on tonight, we're going to talk about it a little bit. But I'm going to have our panelists introduce themselves to us, kind of help us to understand, who they are, and so we can help you with some things that you might be dealing with, struggling with in the area of mental health. All right, start on my left side over here, probably to your right. Brother Ricky Thomas, tell us about what it is that you do. And
Well, I'm retired military, a little over 20 years, and currently I still work with the military. I'm a data collector, analyst, and we collect data for soldiers that come through the post and do training, getting ready to do a deployment or so.
Awesome. My good friend who's been on with us before, Deacon Anthony Fontenot of the Antioch Church. Tell us about what it is that you do.
Named Anthony Fontenot. I work at Ville Platte Elementary for Evangeline Parish School Board. I'm a school counselor. I've been working with kids for at least about 8 years.
Okay. So he's a school counselor, so he's going to talk to us a little bit about what it is to with some childhood or disorders as it relates to children. On my right, we've got what I call Macedonia's basketball superstar. We have Desiree Bellard, who's with us on tonight. Tell us about what it is that you do right now.
Yes, so I'm currently a permanent substitute for Evangeline Parish School Board at Mamu High School for English 1, which is 9th grade. And I'm also a recent college graduate of Centenary College of Louisiana.
All right, awesome, awesome. And I've got his son, Torin, with us on tonight. Torin, tell us about what it is that you do.
My name is Torin LaFleur. I'm a provisional licensed professional counselor in the state of Louisiana. I work for Evangeline Parish School District as the mental health counselor and well-being facilitator. So I go around to all the 12 schools in the district and pretty much help with any mental health, mental wellness, well-being type of aspects to students. We work with behavior, social, emotional support as well. We provide academic support. Try to find that connection between, if it is like academic, what it is that's causing, some of those issues. I also work in like community-based therapy, and I do individual psychotherapy as well. And so I got both my degrees from Southern University, go Jags, in 2012 and 2017 respectively. And I've been working in the field since 2013. So it's like my 10th year doing therapy.
Awesome, awesome. Glad to have you. Most nights, I'm the professional as we're talking about, Bible stuff. But on tonight, we're going to yield to Torin and his dad, Anthony, in terms of, their professional expertise as it relates to mental health and wellness. Tonight, Psalms 88 is our springboard. Psalm number 88 is our springboard in terms of what we're talking about. There's 18 verses. 18 verses that are some of the, when you're reading them, some of the most depressing verses in the entire Bible. And so I want to encourage you to go read that when you get a chance. Here is this man of God. He's a prophet, and he is calling out to God through these 18 verses, calling out to God for help. Now, I admit that God can help us through all types of situations, but God has placed and blessed, men and women like Torin and Brother Anthony to be able to help us process some of the things that we're having to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And so on tonight, as we go through asking some questions and delving deep into this broad area of mental health, they're going to help us with trying to unpack and where to go to get some help. I want to admit first that when I was kind of doing all of the background and all of the research, trying to prepare to talk about mental health and awareness this month, what I found was that how expansive this area is. And you're shaking your head but you're shaking your head like real cool about it. For me, it's like this.
I'm not being cool. I mean, I'm shaking my head cool about it, but it's definitely like, I understand where you're coming from. It's very, not broad, but it's so much information. It's very extensive. It goes back decades and decades and decades and decades ago. So you can't get lost in the sauce, for lack of a better term. I always say it's not like quantum physics or rocket science, but it can be. It's not formulas and things that you have to understand or have to memorize in order to get a result. But when you're dealing with the human, mind and the human body and how they're related, it could be just as complex as quantum physics and all of that stuff.
I would say, the variables that it's able to, where quantum physics and all of those things, you're able to, figure out what the different variables are. The mind is is so mysterious that, you know, sometimes, you know, those variables, range from what I'm understanding could be environmental, from hereditary.
Yeah, it could be social, any type of, just think about not almost any disorder, but a lot of them can stem from a myriad of different places. They could be genetic, it could be a social component to it that brings about the onset of a disorder. It could be an internal thing, external thing, a traumatic experience, you know. So a lot of times as human beings, things are hitting us in all different types of directions, you know, almost from before you're born. Like, honestly, what happens to you in the womb has a lot to play with, has a lot to do with who you are, you know, what are you comprised of, your DNA and all those things, to where when you come into the world, you know, it starts then.
Right. It's just, like you said, that's when you talk about, you know, physics and all of the variables, these are, you know, variables that, you know, a lot of times you just simply can't account for. And then what I was also understanding, Brother Anthony, is that, you know, it could be, all things can be, you know, not perfect, but as perfect can be. And you have a traumatic event that happens, you know, in your life. Well, got Brother Ricky, you know, on tonight, you know, and for him, you know, where I thought PTSD was just something, you know, military people, you know, became predisposed to, but I'm understanding that it's not just those who are in the military. It happens with anyone who experiences some type of, you know, trauma or traumatic experience. But Brother Ricky, talk to us about, you know, your experience with, you know, PTSD, or what's the post-traumatic stress disorder.
Well, for me, it's I didn't realize it because, and go back to 2003, you know, during a lot of instances in Iraq, and during that time we didn't have the professionals, mental health personnel to sit there and counsel us, and so we kind of talked to chaplains and we talked amongst ourselves, and over the years it's gotten better with it, but it took some time for me to realize why I had a lot of anger issues. Just before I retired, I decided to go and see some help. You know, went to behavioral health office, and she actually broke it down to talk to me about your childhood. Okay, talk to me about when you went in the military. Talk to me about the instances that happened. Talk to me when you noticed your behavior, or your spouse, your family noticed your behavior. And doing all that kind of pinpointed to where it started, you know. And I didn't realize that, you know, I was dealing with PTSD at the time, you know. And I went through a lot of traumatic issues in Iraq. But being a leader, sometimes I had to kind of hide that so my younger soldiers wouldn't see a weak leader. And I had to be strong for those young soldiers that's, you know, following my lead, and I had to take them home to their family. And once I wasn't in front anymore, okay, now it's time for me to go, you know, take care of myself.
Right. So I want to ask, you know, for him, it came a point where he realized he needed some help. Where do you go or to get help when you recognize, of course, his issue is PTSD. It could be, you know, something else, depression or whatever it is. Where do you go when you realize you need some help?
I say the first thing is, before you go anywhere, self-awareness is key. So he had some self-awareness things in him where there's other people who saw it, because sometimes other people could see things and you don't see it, and then that delays you going to get help. So self-awareness is the first thing, you know. Where do you go after you become self-aware? You reached out to someone, you talked to someone. That's the mind state to have. Where you live, that could have a big part on where you go as well, you know. being in a rural area versus a more populated area. I know we're dealing with a lot of, this is being broadcasted to everybody out there, right? So everybody who's listening, the setting has a lot to do with it as well. Thank God for technology. Now you could pull up your phone and, you could actually, I forgot the name of the app because there's so many of them now. I think like Talkspace may be one of them where you could go reach out to a counselor. You could text somebody, set up an appointment to do what it sounds like was an initial assessment. Come in, we know you have a problem now, but tell me about your upbringing. Tell me about your family life. Tell me about school. Tell me about your adult life and these things that led up to these experiences that brought you here. So again, I don't be too long-winded, but you can reach out through technology now, through your, cell phone, websites, church, like you can go to your church family and then just ask for some recommendations. Really, there's no limit to what you could do to help yourself mentally in 2023. With the commercials that are on TV now, people almost they're prioritizing mental health, not to where it's at the top, but it's not at the bottom anymore. Not only that, but it's profitable as well. So people definitely want to make it accessible to everyone to keep the system rolling, and it's good. It's actually a good thing now that there's more avenues and there's more settings for people to.
And I'm so happy that especially the two of you are here with us as counselors, because especially in the African American community, this topic is taboo. There are movies or shows like Soul Food, where Uncle Joe was in the back, with the television, and so we were, he's got the money in the TV, and so that kind of thing where we hide. That was symbolic of how we kind of hide stuff like that in the back, so we don't want everybody to know about it.
That's true.
And so now more than ever, there's more information and more access to help, like you say. So my question, I guess, for you would be, how do you recognize the signs? Let's say, and of course, it's so broad. I know you said, self-awareness is one of those things, but if for those who may be trying to give someone help, how do you recognize the signs of someone who may be suffering?
It all depends on what they're suffering from. Like Brother Ricky, he's suffering from PTSD. So you probably start to notice lack of sleep or poor eating habits, or just kind of listening to him when you're communicating with him, to have these, we call in counseling, behavior themes. So you get to have an idea of listening to him talk. And therapy is called free association. So you get to let him talk and talk and talk. And then some of these things will just repetitive repeat itself. And so, you as a counselor, you start to notice these things. But as non-counselor, you just notice the basic thing like lack of sleep, or just, him talking about, different things that, if it was military-wide, just, the war zone is just over and over in his head, or, just so many little things that, that he continued to experience. You could pick up on some of these little things, even if you're not a counselor. But if you're a counselor, then, you're aware of these, these type of signs and warnings that you could easily pick up on, and that you could probably talk to him about, like Torrance said, to get some help. Maybe talk to the chaplain, or maybe talk to, whoever it may be within the military branch, whoever it may be, to maybe his supervisor, or maybe his doctor, whoever it may be, so there's different little signs and stuff that you can pick up on.
I just think whenever you're aware of them, you need to speak out, to reach out to somebody. Because once you do reach out to somebody, you never know where to go. You don't know what that information, who you're speaking to, what they could do with it. They could push you in the right direction and go to counseling. Even like at school, right? Like, where do you go specifically? At schools, and this is kind of for the children and for the adults. It doesn't limit anybody in schools. There's therapy services for adults. You could get on telehealth and you can speak with a counselor if you're overstressed out about work or home things that are drifting over and they correlate to work. You can do that. We have a referral list of, I put it together myself, of mental health rehabs and behavioral hospitals and resources from here, kind of like going east and going west, to where even if you're just in the parish, but you can't get to somebody could come to you, you know. But if we don't know what's the issue, then we can't help. For some of the kids, that's why we screen them too. We could be able to see what some of the issues are from teachers' ratings, what's going on in class. We'll be able to see some behaviors. We come together as a team in a lot of instances, and we provide some intervention. Or if it's a little too much for the framework of what school has, right? We can't, do everything at school with the time that we're allotted. We refer them out. We make sure that we do get the help that they need. So it's adults, children, to everyone.
That's good about the screening part, because some people do become aware, but they're afraid or embarrassed to go speak to anyone. Even as close as their family members, they feel like they're going to be judged. So it's definitely that next step to actually speak up.
So Desi, tell us about, in terms of your experience, the pressures of being a high school athlete and then going off to college and being away from home for the first time. Tell us about your experience, with that whole thing, how it affected you.
So definitely in high school, it's always different because you're going back home to your parents and your family at the end of the day. So you have that structure there to keep you going. But of course, once you get in college, you become your own person. You're going into your adult years. So it's like you're still trying to keep that structure in your head from what you got from your family at home, but you're trying to find yourself and do it in your own terms, and sometimes it may not work. So it's just a boggling situation mentally. But I felt like going into college, the transition wasn't as hard, but as I explained to you earlier, putting myself more involved in things besides just basketball and classes. I felt the more organizations I put on myself, the more responsibility. I was thinking it was going to be the same as high school because I was involved in a lot of things then, but it was a different beast. And I felt like the more my schedule got piled up, that's when those emotions of slight depression might have hit there, because I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. Or it's definitely anxiety. I would definitely feel the anxiety some days where it's like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to get through this day. I don't know how I'm going to pass this exam. That's when I really started to see those type of emotions that I never dealt with in high school. So, yeah.
And I also have her on tonight as a young mother, and as a single parent mother right now. Tell us a little bit about that experience in post, after your child was born.
So. I never thought that at first when I started to hear about postpartum depression, I didn't really think it was, not to say not a real thing, but I didn't think it would hit that hard as it did for me. And it came to and I didn't know how to put it to terms, because there would be days where it was just a lot. I was overstimulated as a young mother, as a new mother, and I would maybe burst out to tears. I didn't know what to feel. So after a while, I started to I didn't want to label it as postpartum depression, because my mom is very much a godly person. So she would say, don't label that on yourself. You got to take it to God. And I understand that, but it was just days where I just didn't know how to control it. So it was just some mix of emotions.
And so tell me, what did you do? So
I would talk to my mom first about it. Well, first and foremost, I would bring it to God. But I would definitely speak to my mom about it. And I guess because she's an older generation of a mom, so she didn't really kind of get and understand where I was coming from. And that made me kind of think of as, why didn't the older generations deal with this type of depression that they're putting in, and now?
I think I've answered. For a lot with mental health, there's that stigma there. Especially, I don't want to only speak for Black people, but I know we used to suffering, it's just a part of who we are as people. Given our own traumatic history with America and everything like that, a lot of the times we do struggle, not alone, but we struggle as a community, as a family. We get through it together, because outside of that, who can you trust? Right. Especially when the people who you're supposed to go to sometimes mislead you, they aren't transparent, they don't have veracity, which is like truthfulness, or they don't have your best interests at heart all the times. Maybe they do, but based on the history too, you don't know. You don't feel as comfortable doing those things. And so that stigma is definitely a thing that naturally came from that, I would think. Just looking back how things were and how things are now, people aren't necessarily just keen to dealing with things how our parents did them before in any aspect of stuff. When we talking about work, like millennials, we don't do things before because I think it's just a self-aware. I hate to keep saying that, but self-awareness of who we are now and looking backwards at those things that they got through them, but it wasn't the best way.
Right, yeah.
It was not very harmful, but it could have been harmful, and then that could lead to some other things from a next generational thing. Transgenerational issues is what we call it.
Right, and I like to say that my parents' generation, your parents' generation, we come from a place of your resources were limited. You didn't have the same type of access to health care, and especially mental health care that we have today. And so when sometimes when we're giving the advice, or when our parents were giving advice, they were giving us the best advice that they could give us. Yeah. And so sometimes just pray was your only option. Yeah. Just bring it to God. He can fix it. And listen, he can. But as I said earlier, God has also blessed, professionals who can help us through this process right now, and knowing where to go and recognizing the signs, they're so important. So we've only got a few minutes left, but I want you to talk just a little bit about what it is, and the two of you really, about dealing with children, because really, right now you deal a lot with children. Right now, we're talking about a different generation. And those of us look at this current generation, we say, my goodness, they're different. I don't think they're different. I think the parenting is different, or the counseling that they're getting from parents is different. Talk about what it is to deal with children today, and the things that they're having to deal with, that you two deal with on a day-to-day basis.
For me, working at school with children, especially with those, I don't want to say that they're diagnosed with something, but we know that there's some issues within the home, where there's dysfunctional issues, where there's conduct issues, where there's emotional issues, and they deal with a lot. I mean, especially kids that come to me. There are kids that come to me that deal with depression, they deal with, self-harm, they deal with grief. They deal with anxiety, test anxiety, social anxiety. They deal with generalized anxiety. They deal with a whole bunch of other emotional disturbance. And so what I do is that, when they come to me, is just, to try to build a rapport with them, and try to, allow them to speak and talk about what disturbs them, rather than immediately try to help them or guide them or lead them or, give them everything that they possibly need. So for me, different people may do different things. I just like to let them talk. Then after that, sometimes it all depends what it is. Sometimes we go and play, because play could give you a lot of information too of what's going on behind the mask that we call in counseling. So from play, and talk. Sometimes just doing different things like, throwing the ball, going outside, blowing bubbles. So I do a variety of things just to get kids to feel comfortable, to build a rapport with them. Then we could take it in small anecdotes or small segments to talk about what are some of the things that I noticed, and compared to what are some of the things that maybe he know or she know. And then we go from there, we build that. Then we go from that aspect, and we continue to work on the things that continue to disturb the student, whether it's home or at school.
So what are some of the behaviors that you see? And I'm not talking about specifically that are like the triggers that say, okay, this kid needs some help. What are some of those things that? So if I've got a kid and they're displaying a certain type of behavior, how do I know? Okay, I've got to get my son some help.
You'll see it. It'll pop out in different ways, whether socially, behaviorally, emotionally, academically. You just kind of have to be in tune with what's going on with your son or daughter, your child, and then like I would reach out to the school. Because they have the resources. They may not have, depending on what school. Not all schools have the same or equal amount of resources as other schools. They have some schools who have social workers, counselors there, elementary, high school, and they got some schools who have a counselor there for half a day, you know, and so like at Mamu, so that's that. To kind of touch bases on what Mr. Anthony was talking about, just as far as working with students, like my approach whenever I like to work with students, first of all, like Mr. Anthony said, he likes to let them talk. I think that was like the central theme of what he likes to do. Mine is I just like to create a good environment for them to come in and we could work one-on-one. You know, I like to work with students one-on-one. They may all have the same, even if we do in group, they all have the same behavioral issues, but you still have to treat every individual as an individual. You know, you have to look at what their particular needs are, what's causing them problems and why, and then try to address those things. Not only that, but give them grace, you know, have realistic expectations for them. A lot of times that happens in schools, in a school setting. A child doesn't have a skill, right? He wasn't born with the skill, so he doesn't have it. And so teachers or administrators or whoever expect that because of their age or their grade or their peers do this thing, that they're supposed to do it too. They kind of set them up for failure in that route. And then whenever they don't achieve that thing, then they get blamed for it. And then sometimes that's how the ball gets rolling and then they get in trouble, when really they just needed somebody to just like key in on what it is that was causing them to go left or maybe they shouldn't go right. And then give them some realistic expectations so that way they can build up to being quote unquote normal. You can't just put them there.
And I think also too, you know, Torrance, to provide them with tools.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, like you say, they don't have the tools. Sometimes they expect them to have the tool based upon their age or maturity or whatever it may be. Just to provide them with tools they could self-regulate, self-correct.
Well, listen, man, I'd like to continue this conversation, but our time is up. Can y'all come back and talk to me some more? Can y'all do that?
Okay.
All right, good. I think we've gotten the conversation started, and I think that's really the first step. But I know I need more help. You know, I need more help with being able to help people, because sometimes
I need more help too. You know,
we all need help, and so and we're in this together. And so I'm going to invite you all to come back next week. Come in Sunday so that we can really look at these 18 verses and talk about this pastor, this preacher, this prophet who suffered from depression and anxiety. And man, if the man of God is dealing with these things and who's close to God, certainly there are others who are not as spiritually strong who are dealing with these issues. But listen, before y'all leave tonight, we'll give you an opportunity to give. Brother Torrin, and your dad already knows that when we gather here on Wednesdays during our normal Bible study, we collect an offering. The offering that we collect goes towards our scholarship fund. And this year we've got one high school graduate and two college graduates that we want to be a blessing to help them further their education and aspire to be whatever it is that God has for them to be. And so you can go to Giveify or the Cash App, or you can mail it to the church. The address is on the screen, and so that we can be a blessing to someone where their future is concerned. But before you leave, we want to give you an opportunity. We want to pray for those gifts. Father in heaven, we thank you for today. We thank you for what you have done for us and what you're doing in our lives. We ask, God, that you would bless these gifts that we're receiving. We pray, God, that you would bless these men and this woman of God who gathered with us on tonight. Help us, oh God, to be a blessing to others as they deal with mental health and the awareness thereof. We pray, God, that you would keep us as we grow in your grace. We ask these and other blessings in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
As always, we'd like to thank you for joining us, and we love you for life.
Thank you for watching our broadcast. We hope that you have been blessed. So tune in next time. And as always, we love you to life.